Georgi, we're sticking to a trend of high officials reporting to the checkpoints, and this time we'll see what are some news and tendencies in the agricultural sector. This sector seems to be a top diversification priority from tourism for the government of Georgia due to the global and local implications of the pandemic.
I fully agree with you, Elena, and after this introduction we can say that this time Levan Davitashvili, Minister of Environmental Protection and Agriculture, is a bit upset regarding the status. Environment is top priority for Minister. So Mr. Davitashvili sat down with us for an extended interview touching upon all the main directions that his ministry covers during pandemic and beyond. So Levan Davitashvili is in the checkpoints.
I do miss sometimes some more attention in regards of environment. While addressing some questions personally to you, do you have the same feeling that environment is unfortunately on the second phase in regards of some questionnaires intense to your personality as a Minister of Environment and Agriculture of Georgia? Environment protection, I'm sorry.
It's quite difficult to have a very straight answer to this question. First of all, I think that we managed to make this merger smooth, and we really formed one ministry, which is environmental protection and agriculture. And environmental protection is on the first phase rather than agriculture, because environment is a general topic, where agriculture is part of the environment. That's why we tried a lot to create this perception that first of all this environment, and the name of the ministry first of all is the Ministry of Environmental Protection and then Agriculture. But I guess that because of this new COVID-19 there was so much attention to agriculture, to food safety and food security in the country that we had almost regular communication to public via general media. That's why agriculture was a hot topic, and probably this is how this feeling is formed.
How well everything was managed, Mr. Minister, and we all take into consideration the first weeks, month of the COVID year was quite emotional, but enemy virus still remains as an invisible entity. Do you have any kind of corrections within your decisions up to October, going back to March, April maybe as well? Where would you really edit some of your decisions taking through, I'm talking general governmental decisions?
Well, I think that in general our decisions were absolutely right, because especially the first wave of the virus was absolutely unpredictable. No one had any information, there was no medical experience, and the only measure globally was just locking down economy or like some strict restrictions and measures in society. We all experienced like a lot of casualties, there was high mortality rate globally, and only response was to lock down economy for a short period of time and reopen it, and it was also from the economic perspective, I guess, that right decision. This is about our general approach. Then of course no economy has its full potential and luxury to keep economy closed for a long period of time. That's why we should reopen economy, and we reopened economy, and of course we predicted like increase of number of infections, and we communicated to public every day that we should consider that virus is still here, it never disappeared, and this is something that we communicate to public, and we understand that now we need to keep economy going on. At the same time we should be quite responsible, I mean, dealing with each other to keep numbers under control. Now, at the same time, regarding our ministry, we are responsible for the general food security, and we do regular monitoring of wheat sources in the country, but we understand that there was big disruption of supply chain globally in many countries, and some extraordinary decisions were made by neighbor countries restricting export of many food commodities. Then you should react quickly, and it was our situational approach. We decided to make a regular monitoring of major food commodities, food products like first consumption products and so on.
You mean general commodities, correct?
In general commodities. And we do this now on a regular basis to be on safe side, first of all, and to guarantee food supply to our public.
That's your message to the rest of the period. I mean, I'm talking about the second wave, existing one in Georgia.
Yeah, we understand that now people are less panicked because they have probably more experience, because even in Georgia they get international information. I mean, people are updated via media. That's why I think that we don't expect any panic or chaotic decisions, but anyway, you should be on safe side, keep regular monitoring of...
Not personally by your ministry, but by Georgian government, there were some decisions taken, first of all, to stimulate the local production, but at the same time to resecure some major commodities, as you mentioned. In this regards, we also can remember the decision in regards of Agara sugar factory, which was reopened for some declared period, let me say so, Mr. Minister. As far as I know, it's till the end of this year, and factory itself, they don't know it's going to be prolonged. I mean, all the things happening with Georgian Railway and other things, what has been established by Georgian government. But my question is, there was an intent, let me say so, that sugar as a sample, I'm talking about, that Georgian sugar factory might not just contribute, I mean, the stocks itself, but at the same time replace all the potential risks related to import of the sugar. Was all these expectations met in this regards as well?
Yes, it was part of these complex decisions made by the government intervention in different sectors, including like stimulating power, like in different industries and individual companies like the sugar factory in this regard. We had to secure enough stocks of food commodities. That was our primary decision. That's why we stimulated importation of certain agricultural commodities, and it was really...
You consider it as successful?
Actually, it was an extraordinary decision from our side. We managed
to,
but it was a responsible decision, I would say, because that time no one could predict that it would last longer. People would reopen borders, or they will keep this closed for a while, and food insecurity would be disaster for our society. It worked very well because it also helped to balance these prices, because many attempts of speculations were in the market. So when you are a big player having enough stocks, you are considered as a market player. That's why it was also like socially responsible, not only in terms of food security.
But some decisions, like in regards, like as I mentioned about Agara, is going to be taken by the end of the year, not today.
I think Agara, it's a particular case. It is a big employer, and we all know that it employs
more than
like 600 families, so it has a certain social component as well. And we understand that in general we are not supporters of subsidies, but with COVID-19, this is very natural. Globally, I would say that any country considers certain subsidies and interventions and separate schemes, and now people do not argue about subsidies, whether this is right or wrong. People argue what kind of subsidies are right.
Yeah, correct. In this regards, 2020, COVID year, I would really kick it back off and begin with something new from the very beginning. But nevertheless, how do you see the first results of this year? I'm talking about the eight months results, let me say so, in regards of general and main directions of the agriculture and the environment. How do you evaluate the results?
Yeah, well, in 2020 we managed to keep our agenda in environment, which is very ambitious, and these are significant reforms in many directions. This is forest reform, and in June we adopted a new forest code, which is a legislative fundament of new forest agenda. It is sustainable forest management in general, which will start in 2021. So we are keeping this ambitious agenda during COVID-19. The same about new legislation about air pollution, water resources, forest biodiversity, and many different directions. And also, this was a year where we had a very ambitious reform in waste management. You mentioned different regulations about producers' extended liability system and so on. All these were maintained by the ministry. This is about environment. Regarding agriculture, this is one of the best performing year overall during our last 20 or plus years of our independence. We can see increased number of sales of fruit crops, export record numbers in peaches and some in tangerines and not tangerines.
And it's an actual record, yeah?
Actually, this is a record number in terms of value and volume regarding export, but overall production is also record high this year. We started successful export of berries and new crops like blueberries in many countries, over $6 million, but we are selling this product which just is newly introduced like a few years ago. We are intensively like under the program Planting the Future, investing in new plantations and new intensive and semi-intensive orchards. That's why we expect increased production every year and increased sales of export sales. The same about hazelnut crop, which is one of the major export commodity, especially in agriculture. It plays important role. Many thousand farmers are linked to hazelnut production, and we have up to 50,000 metric tons of production this year already, which is quite high, I would say, like not the highest number. We had a high number, but we are
$200 million.
We expect 100 plus definitely. Actually, average price in shell it's about 50,000 metric tons. While kernel is around 20,000 metric tons, and average price is $5 plus. So it should be 120 million in average, like around. But it's significant. It depends on pricing as well. When we had around 200 million up to 200, it was 189. That was the prices were actually double of this year, but that was like one exemption. We have high numbers in grapes, and grape harvest is almost we are like ending grape harvest within 2-3 weeks time, and we managed to harvest all existing grapes while many countries left on vineyards. But there was also state intervention there, and of course we have good sales in apples, and this is traditional crop, but last 10 years we lost our export sales, and this is second year that we just recovered our export sales. We have good expectation in tangerines, which is also important crop at the end of the year. So the busy season is still going on, and we look forward to having these great results.
My final question is in regards of the late autumn. Why do you exclude? Government officially announced that there will be no lockdown as it was during 53 or 58 days. I'm sorry, I don't remember actually. But at the same time, where do you see the main reason why the situation is quite calm? It's more predictable in regards of businesses. There is no turmoil and emotional side of it. And what has been managed? What is the main message for the Minister of Agriculture, who is still in charge of the main commodities and managing the stocks of these main commodities, which was quite deficit due to some various decisions taken worldwide, but generally it was, the supply chain was totally destroyed.
I
and
think
everything
that
was
now we are in a phase of adaptation. This is what we say now, because initially we had no experience, even medical system, healthcare system, they had no experience, and even their stocks, no country had adequate stocks of medical supply, anything, I would say. And that's why people are, the countries and our system is adapted this moment. And also having this regular communication, and we managed to establish these regular platforms of communication with different business associations, with sectors, with suppliers. And this regular communication, I think that is a good point. We are keeping people informed, business community as well, and is crucial. When there is this communication, things are more predictable. That's why I don't think that we need that kind of lockdown measures this time, but as Prime Minister said, we will use some targeted measures to control this infection under control.